Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So I have been making many different top 5 lists for quite some time, mainly focusing on the mid lane. But I decided to bring out a new top 5 list where I'll be talking about what I truly believe are the top 5 easiest mid laners to play. Now keep in mind there's of course more than just simply 5, but think of these ones as the ones that I recommend. So before I get into the actual list, a few disclaimers to mention. Now when I say top 5 easiest, I don't necessarily mean that these champions are by far the easiest champions in the game. For instance, I can talk about AP Nunu because it really doesn't get any easier than that, but that's not really something that might win you games. I'm trying to list you champions that are very simple and non-mechanically intensive, but can also win you games. And for many patches to come and the ones that have already passed, these champions have consistently been very simple to play while also being very effective. So maybe you're kind of new to League of Legends and or to the mid lane and you want to slowly ease yourself into this lane. Maybe you want to win a game in a simpler fashion, playing sort of a one-dimensional type champion that is also very effective still, or whatever the case may be. But without further ado, let's go into the number 5 spot. So starting everything off is gonna be Heimerdinger. This is a really good example of a champion that I don't think is necessarily difficult to play because most of the laning phase you're just simply putting down your turrets, hopefully in the right position, and you're letting them do half of the work. He isn't as reliant on landing his skill shots like his W or his E ability for the most part because you don't have to win the laning phase with Heimer. And even if you miss his W and or E ability, your turrets are still there providing so much pressure in the lane and really just doing a whole lot. A really cool thing about Heimer is that even though he has no escapes, he is not easy to gank. So again, if you're inexperienced with mid lane and you don't ward enough, or maybe you just simply want sort of a free pass in the mid lane and not have any issues with someone ganking you, this is the champion to play. Because if someone does come in for the gank, you simply have your towers around you and you throw down your ultimate tower and then you just watch their HP plummet. Also, a lot of people do not know how to play against this Donger because he really doesn't see a whole lot of playtime. But the few playtime that he does see, he actually has a very high win percentage. Overall, Heimer isn't necessarily the most mechanically intensive champion in the game, but also being very strong for how surprisingly simple he can be. The cons of Heimer is the fact that he does still have skill shots you have to land every now and then without question. He doesn't have an escape in his kit, which isn't always a bad thing just because of how strong his towers are. And he does take a bit of practice to at least understand where you should be putting all your turrets within the laning phase so that not only they can attack the minions, but they don't simply get destroyed by the enemy mid laner for free. As we slowly move into the number 4 spot, this is going to be a champion I'm sure most of you expected to see on this list. Now there's definitely many things to say when talking about Katarina because I think she's such a delicate topic. So starting things off, she is quite infamous for being the easy and very OP type champion from mid lane. This is not someone that you want to see fed on the enemy team, and this is also a champion that can get fed somewhat easily. The reason she's so strong and the reason I put her on this list is because unless you're playing in very high elo where a lot of people will simply understand how you want to play against Katarina and how you want to counter her, you're gonna have a lot of success with this champion. She doesn't really have any skill shots unless you count her W as half a potential skill shot. And she has a ridiculous amount of AoE damage in her kit, pretty much every single ability being a form of AoE damage except for her Shunpo. So she has probably one of the highest potentials out of any champion in League of Legends to simply clean up a team fight and get very fed. Which kind of brings me to my other point. All it takes is one good team fight and suddenly you're gonna be really strong with Katarina that you can hard carry a game. Now this isn't always the case, but Katarina is definitely victim to that more often than not. She has extremely high mobility, being able to use her Shunpo whether it's on minions to go away, to go back into the fight, to do more damage, to reset, to use it over wards, to use it on allies, and there's really a whole lot of potential. So the main reason I put her on this list is just of how easy it can be to get fed on Katarina. Again, all it takes is that one good team fight, while having a kit that really isn't all that difficult as long as you can mash your keyboard properly. Again, I think a lot of the stuff I said mainly applies to the lower elo, but once you start playing in a very high elo, so maybe Diamond Plus or Master Tier or whatever, people really start understanding how to play against Katarina, where it can be very difficult to get success on this champion. The cons is the fact that her laning phase isn't really the best, nor is it really the worst. She's very hard in high elo like I mentioned, and no crowd control effects in her kit. Either way, this is the champion that has a simple kit and has probably one of the best potentials to get fed. Continuing on and going to the number 3 spot is going to be Malzahar. This is usually one of my personal go-tos whenever I want to have sort of a free lane, not really worry about who I'm facing because it doesn't usually matter. Constantly be pushing in the lane, make it as annoying as possible for the enemy team while also being able to always know that I can lock down a fed target in a team fight, kind of like you see on this Hecarim here. So I think Malzahar has a pretty good laning phase because you can easily push in the lane super quickly and you can do it consistently. His kit is not hard whatsoever to use because almost every single ability is a target ability except for his Q. And this kit tends to synergize quite well together because at the end of the day, all you really have to do is throw your W down, put the E on the target, and then pop your ultimate. And if you happen to land your Q, well, I guess that's just kind of a bonus. So on top of having a very strong laning phase, he has a really good all-in at level 6 if you have your Voidling up, just flash, E, W, and use your ultimate on the target. Follow it up with an Ignite, and a lot of the times it probably will be a kill because your enemy opponent has taken so much damage from the minions you've kept constantly pushing in that they cannot really fight back. In a team fight again, someone's fed, pop your ultimate on that target, and suddenly they're not going to be doing a whole lot. On top of everything else, if you also build a Rallies and a Mask, I mean, you're gonna have permanent slow on your E ability, you're gonna have insane damage on your E from the Mask as well. And I mean, overall, this is just a champion that I truly believe is simple to play, but yet so damn effective. The cons of Malzahar, again, no escape in his kit. His ultimate also immobilizes him, so you have to use it at the right times. And his best ability, which I think is gonna be his E, other than his ultimate, is a single target ability, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I think we can live with that. Finally, moving into the number 2 spot is going to be Annie. This is a champion I feel like a lot of people probably expected to be number 1. And this is also a champion that if you know anything about me or if you watch my streams, you know I absolutely despise facing Annie's because I think she's so darn easy, but she's so darn strong too. So in my honest opinion, Annie is notorious for being so strong and also so very simple to play. Again, I'm not trying to make that seem like it's a bad thing. I mean, if anything, it's a good thing. Because playing against this champion a lot of the times is gonna prove to be difficult. And since Annie's kit is so straightforward and very kind of one-dimensional, there's not a whole lot of room for error except maybe just missing your flash Tibbers or Tibbers in general. But overall, she has a very strong laning phase, constantly being able to spam her Q on a very low cooldown, easily getting her mana back, last hitting with it, putting on some pressure with the Q harass, working very well if she gets a gank for her, and working somewhat well if she gets ganked, especially at level 6, probably being able to turn it around. A lot of people also won't respect the flash Tibbers at level 6 and the full combo with Ignite that Annie can do, so try to take advantage of that. If your target also happens to survive your insane burst as Annie, I mean, you have your Tibbers there chilling, doing constant damage, and you have fairly low cooldown on your abilities, especially your Q. She has, in my opinion, one of the scariest initiations out of a mid laner, being able to simply flash in, throw the Tibbers down with the stun ready to go on a huge team fight, easily stun 4 or 5, maybe 3 people, and that play alone, not being something that's difficult to pull off, can easily change a fight and even a game around. This is easily one of the champions I highly recommend playing mid lane if you're maybe not super mechanically intensive and or you want a simple kind of breeze through mid lane without having too many issues or worries. However, the cons of Annie, again, no escape in her kit, something that's very similar among all of these champions I'm listing. Her wave clear is definitely subpar. I mean, her W really being the only form of wave clear, and a lot of the times it probably won't kill a lot of the minions unless you're fed. And because of that, she is a mid-range caster, so I mean, you have to sort of go all in with Annie for the most part. That's not necessarily a bad thing because her all-in is definitely very, very strong. But overall, I highly recommend this champion if you still want to destroy your games without having to have a mechanically intensive champion. And finally, the grand finale and the number 1 spot has to be given to Morgana. This might be somewhat more of a personal opinion, but whenever I have to face a Morgana, I honestly want to punch myself because it really is just not fun laning against Morgana. She is such a safe champion and it's so hard to gank her, so being able to snowball off of a Morgana mid is almost never gonna happen unless she really messes up. If you ever try going in for a play or an aggressive move, if she lands a Q on you, you're going to be taking a lot of damage because of her W as well. She's going to get a lot of life back thanks to her passive and her W and even her Q, and you're going to be pretty much disengaged from the rest of the fight because her Q lasts for so long. Once she has a bit of AP and her W is about rank 3, she can easily push in waves while also having great sustain, again thanks to the spell vamp she gains from her passive and the very high damage that her W does. She's very hard to gank because if she just puts the black shield on her, she can probably just walk back to tower and not die. So if you want to have a very simple lane where you don't have to do a whole lot and you can play it so safe without having any worries of probably feeding your laner, this is the pick to go. All you have to do is play safe, throw your W, push in the wave, probably get most of the CS. If you ever get ganked, throw the black shield on yourself and you're probably fine. And if you ever land your Q on the enemy opponent or the jungler or whoever, I mean, they're gonna probably take a lot of damage if not die. She can easily save allies with her black shield as well, so also bringing great utility to the team. A lot of damage from her W, Great AoE slow and potential stun from her ultimate when combined with the Zhonya's makes it very annoying for the enemy team to deal with. And overall, just one of the safest and easiest mid laners in my honest opinion to play. That is also very strong because in solo queue, let's be honest, catching someone off is probably one of the best ways to win a game, and her Q is so darn good at that. Or if you don't want to have to skill shot your Q, you can simply flash in with your ultimate, get the chain on them, and then the second it stuns them, that guarantees you a free Q into a W. The cons of Morgana is also like every other champion, she has no escape in her kit, which isn't really a horrible thing because she does have the black shield at least. And at the end of the day, she is somewhat reliant on actually being able to land your Q at least 50% of the time, I would say. But regardless, I think a well-deserved #1 spot. So that right there, guys, is my top 5 easiest mids to play that are also quite strong in my opinion, and definitely have the potential to carry games. If you did enjoy, please guys throw in a like, it helps me a lot. Share it with your friends, check out my other videos as well, and maybe tell me what you think your top 5 easiest mid laners are down below. And make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't. But I want to thank each and every one of you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you for the next video. Peace.